The following program was produced by the United States Courts.
Hello, I'm Javier Hernandez with the United States Courts. Well, the country is slowly reopening, and so too are the federal courts. But how do the courts obey social distancing, personal protective equipment requirements, and other safety measures when it comes to juries? Well, we spoke with two judges who talked about the challenges involved in protecting a right that's guaranteed by the Constitution.
We're one of the few countries in the world that has a jury system. And our founders made our fellow citizens judges in a very critical way. And that our Constitution has stood the test of time, and they exemplified it certainly in these trials. And I think it's important that our courts have remained open for the administration of justice within the framework of the rule of law, notwithstanding the serious public health issues that we currently face.
Denver conducted two of the first federal jury trials after the pandemic closed many courthouses.
In each case, the defendant had pleaded not guilty, had asserted his rights under the Speedy Trial Clause and Speedy Trial Act, and very much wanted to go to trial. And so then we had to evaluate whether we could do so safely, both making the jurors actually safe and other trial participants, as well as making everyone feel safe. And once we were satisfied that we could do that, we decided to proceed with the trials.
In Dallas, Chief Judge Barbara Lynn also forged ahead to conduct jury trials. Her first step was a letter to potential jurors.
I sent a letter that explained some of the safety measures that we were employing, along with the questionnaire, along with a form for them to fill out if they had excuses, and that allowed them to include excuses related to COVID-19 risk or COVID-19 exposure or employment that made it impossible for them to serve at this time because they were essential workers or nurses or what have you.
A former trial lawyer herself, Judge Lynn imagined the trial at every stage and then tackled each challenge in order, one at a time.
They knew how we were doing it because once they arrived, they could see the seriousness with which we were taking this. I was wearing a face shield, as were some of the lawyers. Others were wearing masks. We were all seated in the front of the room behind plexiglass, and they were checked in by a person behind plexiglass. We had them report their temperature when they arrived. And so I think they could see that this wasn't going to be treated casually, and I think that made them more comfortable. The whole day, we only lost one person who said, I hear everything you're saying, but I just don't think I'm going to be able to pay attention. I help take care of my parents. They're elderly. They don't live with me, but I go over there frequently, and I couldn't bear the thought that I might expose them to something, and I excused her.
Once the jury was selected and the prosecutors, defenders, and defendants, plus witnesses, were all together, space became an issue.
You wouldn't say it was crowded if you were looking in there, but when you talk about social distancing, I maybe would have been able to get two other people in there. It was pretty packed.
And we were able to design it where we had the jurors sitting in every other seat, and we have a jury box extender. And then we added what amounted to a third row in front of the jury box. We then had the assistant U.S. attorney sit at the table traditionally where the defense sat. And then we essentially rotated everyone around. And so we had the defendant and defense counsel at a table facing across to the jury to my right as I sat on the bench.
I could put another screen between the witness who was at the corner of the jury box and the middle of the jury box, and then I'd have at least a couple extra seats in what is the jury box. But I haven't figured out how I could have a long case with lots of defendants.
That ultimately will be a concern not only in our court, but in a lot of courts, because I think one of the lessons learned from this is you end up using a much larger portion of your physical footprint within a courthouse.
Judges Dever and Lynn caution that more complex trials, such as those with multiple defendants, will be difficult to stage until the pandemic recedes. They also say no one answer will fit every federal courthouse.
The ideals of justice and the rule of law are vital to our country, and those principles cannot stop. They need to continue, but we need to temper a desire to go full speed ahead with a focus on safety.
Please visit the Centers for Disease Control for more COVID-19 information. And don't forget that many local governments have their own resource pages that deal with opening phases, gating criteria, and local health data. Your local courthouse website should have information on the building itself and any general orders dealing with cases and docket scheduling. Thanks for watching. That's it for In Camera. I'm Javier Hernandez with United States Courts.